Hi, everybody. I'm Charlie Lennon, and I am your executive leadership coach, speaker, trainer, and I'm excited to bring you all Communicate to Lead Virtual Leadership Conference. It has been a joy putting this together, and I am so honored to have Dr. Taylor here with us today, a wonderful collaborator of this conference. And so thank you so much, Dr. Taylor, for being here.
Thank you, Charlie. I'm excited to be here today.
Absolutely. Yes. So if we could get started with you just telling everybody who you are and a little bit about what you do within your organization.
So, who am I? My name is Dr. Christy Taylor. I am the founder of Work Solutions LLC. So, I'm going to start with how we first spell work, right? WORXK Solutions. The RX represents that we are the prescription for change. We support, or I support, individuals with their career and organizational resiliency. So, I focus on two areas really, right? Individual career branding and success, and workplace resiliency, with a specific focus on organizations in the social impact sector, meaning that if you are a change maker, somebody who wants to make a difference, if you work for a company with a social impact mission and you're dedicated to being a change maker, then I want to help you have a resilient and brilliant career. And so I partner with my clients to write the prescription for change.
Oh my goodness. I was like, oh, I love that. What? She did what? I loved it. So that was perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor, for sharing that. I like
Thank
that. A
you. And thank
prescription
you for
for
having me
change.
today.
Yes. So you already kicked us off when you're talking about a prescription for change, because we know a big part of leadership is accepting change management and building those high performing teams. And so when you look at being able to do that, how have you experienced communicating a strong vision, or have you seen others do that? What strategies have you used or seen?
So I'm going to start with, I think that one of the things that really makes a great leader is you being a great follower, right? So I'm going to give you two examples, one from my own leadership, but I'm going to start with what it looks like from me being a operations officer in the military. And because my whole purpose there, right, is to support the commander, kind of like his exec, right? And so when you have somebody, and I remember going to an executive retreat once, and the person who was running that retreat, one of the speakers said that you have to be able to, if you're building a career brand and there's a place that you want to go or a level that you want to get to, you have to understand about the importance of having loyalty to people, have loyalty to good people, right? Because they're going to be your sponsors and champion you when you are not in that room. So really that has been my role as an OPSO, what we would call it in the Air Force, right? And so I want to start there. Every couple of years, we get new commanders. So it's not uncommon. So about 2 to 3 years max is as long as the commander is going to stay within his squadron or group. And so I'm speaking at a level within his department, per se, a director of a department. When that person comes in, they usually will take the time to communicate a vision for where they want to go forward with the organization, right? So I'm going to use that as the first example. I remember learning. I've had the opportunity to observe several individuals with this, and one of my favorite lessons in that is that we had a commander that came in, great guy, right? And one of the things that he did, he came in and then he communicated, this is what our vision is going to be, this is how we're going to move forward. And everybody was on board. But then the very next month when we came back, he said, you know what, we're going to do this again. I, as the leader, I should have included you guys in this collaborative process, right? And it's a couple of things that I took from that. One, that as a leader, that he consistently self-assessed himself, right? And even though we were on board with whatever he wanted to do, he still came back that next month and reset and said, hey, we're going to do this as a team. And so what he did in terms of the communication process, he made it easier to support his vision because he engaged us in that process and there was collective buy-in. So one piece of advice that I would give to you as a leader is look for opportunities where there is collective buy-in, right? And so if you can create and foster that very, especially up front as a new leader coming into an organization, take the time to do that. It's worth that extra step to kind of get some perspective. Even if you have it in your mind, okay, this is the direction I want to go, you can kind of lead and facilitate that process by actually engaging with your leadership team, because it kind of goes back to Kotter's principles of change, where we're talking about, because remember, you haven't even implemented the change yet. As the leader, you are the change that's coming in. So that's a great way to make that connection and have the buy-in from your team so that you can move the organization forward as you continue to implement larger change initiatives. Now, what I do in my full-time role is really lead change, and I'm very observant as someone who has to champion it, right? So I'm going to give you a second example, really two, in my own career, of just how when you're working for a leader, sometimes as the leader, I can set the tone. And just because I've had an opportunity to sit behind great leaders, I am always self-reflective in how I lead. So anytime that I'm going to launch an initiative or engage, I always make sure that I collaborate as much as possible, foster that teamwork environment and engage. But I will say, there are sometimes as a leader where we know that even at an executive level, I've served as a dean, I've been an ops, I've done those type of roles where even at those levels, I would say even mid-tier, right? You're going to get things that are pushed down to you. When I worked for a higher education institution, we would get stuff pushed down to us from the state all the time. It wasn't always something that we agreed with, but we were tasked with carrying out. So here's my tip on that. When you are in a position as a leader where there is something that you need to carry out, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, you take ownership of that. Because you as the leader taking ownership and having a level of emotional intelligence that allows people to understand that this is what needs to be done, you keep in mind that you're going to set the tone for whether or not that project is successful. So as a leader, I don't go, well, Charlie told me to do it. I simply come in and say, hey guys, this is what we have to do. Here's what needs to get done. And I don't micromanage the process with my team. I set the tone and say, this is what needs to get done, answer any questions. And I let them have that creative space to achieve their goal. We do check-ins. And one final tip is that especially when I was serving as a dean, oftentimes we would have to go and we would have to present to, like, for example, our board of directors, right? And one of the things that really helped my team gain trust in me was I would bring them into the office. So let's say they wanted to launch a new initiative. I would bring them into the office and then I would play devil's advocate. We would go through every scenario together in terms of how to answer a question, if there was going to be some resistance, or just so that they know that we're on the same page, right? And I think that all of those things, being active and engaging with your team, setting the tone, engaging them in the processes where you can, as well as when things or difficult situations arise, you display that level of emotional intelligence and leadership. I mean, watch right now what's happening in politics. Not that this is political, right? But we see Vice President Harris as she steps up and she's taking that lead as being very presidential, right? She's not blaming it on anybody. There's no extra opinions. It's like this moment she's rising to that level of leadership. And that's what we need to really be doing, or thinking about how we move in our everyday jobs. Because if we want to be seen as a leader or executive level leader, the emotional intelligence and control is going to be so important about how we present ourselves and how we engage our team.
First, thank you for your service. And it's amazing that you have served in the military for as long as you have in such a leadership role. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but you're absolutely, yes, honestly, thank you. But you're absolutely right about everything that you shared. And I love that you spoke about that emotional intelligence, because I think that as leaders, we could do some more work around that. I used to say the person who can control their emotions in a room the best is the most powerful person in the room. Because as a leader, we're going to get hit with 5, 6, 7, 10 different things, and we have to be able to keep our composure so that other people feel safe.
And they know experience too, Charlie. I will say that because we're talking like this but we are more polished at this point, right? When I first started out in leadership, I could definitely tell you that stuff would happen and I would panic. I didn't know how to respond or deal with it. So the polished leader that you see, and there are still things that even at the level of leadership that I am, that I still need to experience as I continue. Look, I'm in my 40s and I'm still saying I'm continuing to grow as a leader, because we're always evolving. So if you're listening to this, and no matter where you are, or whatever level you are at, right, we're always evolving. And some experiences you just don't know until you have them. But then you also learn from the holistic view of all of the things you experience, you learn how to respond and engage on certain things.
Right. We're always learning. No,
Yeah.
that's the nice thing about leadership is when we can admit that we don't know it all. All right. So even in me doing these interviews, I'm organizing this conference, but I'm learning something from every single guest speaker that we have on this platform. Because if you're not growing, then you're dead. There's nothing left. And so I agree with you where there's some things that people are naturally gifted at, and then there are other things that people have to really, really work at to be good at. And so emotional intelligence is one of those areas that I think once as a leader, we focus in on that and spend some more time being in tune with who we are. And so the more you know yourself, the better you are able to lead and the better you're able to relate with others. So I think that's a powerful strategy and recommendation for those that are, looking to be a better leader and be able to just kind of foster that sense of a high performing team.
Yeah.
Now, with that, because you've listed so many things, and mainly, I mean, man, you being in the military, tell me how, and people, we almost called it work-life balance, but I don't even want to call it that anymore. But how do you deal with just being able to handle the stress and being able to be a resilient leader? What are some things that you've done?
So first of all, let me say this. I focus with my clients specifically when I engage with them as a career coach, I focus on a holistic approach to their career, right? When they come to me, it's often transactional, but I ask the questions. I don't say I'm a life coach, but I ask the type of questions that, right, that opens a can of worms, so if you want to say, to actually kind of figure out the root cause of some of the challenges that they've had. And so this is where the resiliency aspect comes in. I actually have graduated, or I'm not going to say graduated, transitioned from using the term work-life balance. I've started using work-life integration. I heard somebody say that at the end of last year, and I gave it more thought. And I'm like, with all the things that we're doing, I'll even say you too, when we talk about being an entrepreneur, I'm continuing to work a full-time job and be in the military. It really is about integration, because I don't know if there is balance. The balance will come through the process of integration. And that's kind of how I like approach it with my clients, right? So what I'm saying is that I start with where I am and what I can do. There are days when I tell my assistant or I tell my family, like, hey, today I'm taking no calls. I'm taking no appointments, because I understand that this is not going away. I'm not in a position, at least right now, I'm not in a position to say, hey, this cuts off at 3 o'clock. That would be more of the balance, but it'll get there through the process of work-life integration, meaning that I do what I can to take proactive time for myself. Like, I might not can do a 2-week vacation, but I take a 2-day weekend and I go on a trip, right? And I really enjoy myself. But I look for ways to really be at peace with myself. And I think the other thing is when we're talking about this concept of work-life integration, and recognize where you can get those small pockets of time that as you kind of get some of the stuff off your plate, that it becomes more balanced. But I think for us in the military, sometimes it's not balanced until we get to the end of the 20 years in retirement, right? So you have to kind of just always be on your toes and look at it as like an integrative process where you're starting where you are. If you're going to say, okay, I'm going to make a commitment to meditation, that's an easy one to use, right? You might not have 20 minutes a day, but you might start with 5 minutes. You might wake up early so that you can actually do that 20, 30 minutes. You find a way to integrate these mindfulness practices into your life. You find a way to, if you can afford it, maybe this week you bring in somebody to clean the house. Maybe this week you bring somebody in to babysit the kids while you and your spouse go out. But that's what integration looks like. Successful integration means that you are being realistic with yourself about what you can handle. Also meaning that if you know that your plate is full, not taking on additional things. Because you know that even when you say no, because no is a complete sentence, right? That because in my specific case, because I'm in the military, sometimes no still means it's going to happen anyway, because I really can't say no, right? But if you're not in the same position as me, you have an advantage, because no can really mean no. But I just think from a professional standpoint, I'm never gonna sit here and tell somebody to take a meeting at 11 o'clock at night, because sometimes I have clients that do that. When I say work-life integration, they go, well, I think I integrated well. I work from home. And so I'm up at 10 o'clock at night, sometimes working. I'm like, no, that's not, that's not what I mean by work-life integration. It just simply means recognizing that there's some stuff on your plate that's not gonna go away, but self-care still needs to be a priority. So how are you gonna take those steps to intentionally implement those things in your life and put some stop points in there? Because eventually, as you do that, then you will find the balance of what's going to really work for you.
Yeah, it's not a badge of honor to not take care of your health.
I know, and I think that we come from a culture, just in general, especially when we transition to this gig culture where people think, or the hustle culture, where it's like, I got to work 15 jobs. No, everything, I always look at myself as in transitioning, right? Eventually, I will retire from the military. Eventually, I will retire from my full-time job. And what I do for me, and that's another piece of thing I'm going to give you as a leader, just recognizing and being able to define success for yourself. Right now, in running my business, there's a certain layered level that I would like to get to. But since I have no plans to stop working, since I have no plans to retire from the military anytime soon, I always look at myself as being in transition. So eventually, though, what I do as a coach will become my full-time role, right? But it's just understanding success for yourself and not being defined by, oh, people think that you're so great and awesome, Charlie. So, yes, that's inspiration to level up, but where is it that you want to be truly in yourself, in your heart? Where do you see yourself and envision yourself? And that's where you have to stay focused on where you want to go.
Right. What are your goals, not what everybody else is saying.
Right, because that's a
telling
big
you
part
where
of
you-
resiliency, right? When you
Yeah.
ask the question of resiliency, sometimes we burn ourselves out because without even realizing it, we're trying to be a people pleaser. You know
Right.
what I mean?
And
Instead of
that may
trying
not
to
even be something you want. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
there's so people sometimes feel like they have to do this, then this, then this, then this, and to get to where they're going. And it's not always linear.
It really
Sometimes
isn't.
we go here to go here to go here to go here. I've been in high positions, and then I've stepped down, and then I've gotten to leadership positions again, and then I've been lateral. I mean, there's no place that tells me it has to look like this.
Exactly.
But
Look, Charlie, I'm in my 40s, okay? I still want to get married and have a family. And people are asking me right now, do you want to be a lieutenant colonel? Do you plan to be a vice president? Well, right now, the balance is, right, when we talk about integration, I work a job that pays me well, but it gives me the flexibility to run my business, right? And maybe later on, I might continue to seek those things. But I was once very, very committed to seeking a title, right?
yeah,
But I also want to have a family. I'm not saying that you can't have it all, but I'm just saying that we
yeah,
have to figure out what's going to work for us. And so now it's like a very different question when people ask me that, because I say, hey, the balance for me is actually not pursuing the highest level I can go in this moment in my career. I was like, I'm more interested in having a family and engaging, because I kind of got the perfect mix going right now, right? Where I can finally handle that. And so I think that we have to really be open to, it's like you say, it's not linear, because we all probably, as women, we probably all had that plan, like by 25, I'm going to be married, 2 kids and a dog. And what happens when it don't go that way? So it's just like, be focused on what you want and what your alignment is and what works for you, and really define success for yourself. And now I'm talking about as an individual. When you are a leader in a workplace, an organization, you do have to align with that organization's mission, right? You have to and you might have certain KPIs and things that you have to meet. But I'm talking it on an individual and spiritual level at this point of things.
absolutely. And I'm wishing you all the best with that. You go get your kids and your family, and then call me later, and you go tell me, what was I thinking? I am exhausted. These kids don't go to bed at night, but that's okay. No, I'm gonna let you have it. Enjoy. I have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old, so I get you right there. I'm right there with you. But it is true that sometimes people want to project their plan for you onto you, and that's not necessarily the plan you want for your life. And I applaud you for being able to say, okay, hold on, pump the brakes. I could, Dr. Taylor could keep doing it. She could easily go and snatch that highest title but you're being true to yourself and saying, hey, I want to pause right now because that's not what I want right now. Doesn't mean I don't want it ever again, but I just don't want that right now. And
Right. I
that's
think we have to
the same
remember
thing.
that leadership is I don't look at leadership as a title. And that's another thing we talk about, communicate to lead, right? You speaking up for who you are and being clear about who you are and your goals. Those are attributes of leadership. Leadership itself, the concept is attribute. And so many
Right.
times we seek that in title, but we don't actually display it in what we're attributing or actually doing to produce results, right? There are many people who have the title, but are they producing the results? I had a young man that I was supervising who passed away, and we just did a memorial service with him, for him, and I'm going to respect his
Sorry.
privacy, but I'm going to say that one of the things I've said at his memorial was it is about how you as a leader, it's about how you show up for your people. It's about how people are going to remember you when it's all said and done, right? Because we all grow up with the I'm gonna seek a title or pursue something. But at the end of the day, Charlie, people are gonna know that you're a great coach, right? But what will be most remembered is that you're a great person,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I'm sending my condolences to you too for sharing that. I know that that's very emotional thing to share. So thank you for being transparent and vulnerable to share that with you. But that's true. At the end of the day, it's not about the titles, it's about who you are as a person. And that's what also helps us be able to sleep well at night. Okay. Is that, it's not Charlie, the leadership coach, it's Charlie, the friend, it's Charlie, the wife, it's Charlie, the mother. It's Charlie, the daughter, the aunt, the whomever. So, there's more titles that are more meaningful to many of us than that workplace title. So
Right.
I agree with you with that.
And you're an executive coach, so sometimes, I mean, even that when you get pulled into these conversations with individuals at an executive level, their title can be and their role can be so consuming to them. And sometimes I have to take clients back and go, what are really the things that define you? Because that's what makes up the holistic picture of you as a leader. It's not just your job title, right? There has to be other pieces and components of you that people know and the truth about who you really are deep down. And I get it, at work, they might not know that, but they'll pick up on elements of who you are as a leader just based on how you come across and how you can come and engage, right? Which again can affect value when you're trying to move.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You gotta again let that guard down and be open to showing different sides of who you are when you're a leader. So you're absolutely right about that. Well, again, I'm a talker. I could talk all night, but I would love for you to be able to close this conversation with leaving us with one final piece of advice for those that are either in a leadership role right now or an emerging leader. What would your final thought be for us today?
I have a very military mentality when it comes to leadership, right? And so I'm just going to repeat what I just said, that leadership itself is a construct in terms of it's more than your title. It's about how you show up for your people and team and how you engage and get buy-in in the process. Because when you include, and this is whether you're an emerging leader, an executive leader, whoever you are, if you're listening to this, engage your people in the process and have and work to cultivate your emotional intelligence, because how you present and how you show up, those are going to make a difference in terms of how people perceive you, whether people perceive you as approachable, whether people buy into what you have to say, whether people choose to engage with you, right? So that's the piece of advice that I would take. That's at any level. Always be self-assessing, look at how you show up, work on your emotional intelligence, and make sure that you're seeking buy-in from your team.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Check, check, check. Self-assess. That's the conclusion today. Self-assess. That'll make you a stronger, better leader. I completely am thankful for you coming on this platform, Communicate to Lead. Dr. Taylor, if people want to connect with you further, they've just seen this, I know they're going to be like, oh, I need more. So if you could please share with everybody, how can people connect with you?
So we are available on basically all major social media platforms at Work Solutions. That's WORXK Solutions, right? And you can find us on our website at www.worksolutions.com. We have a couple of events coming up. We are hosting our Diversity Works Roundtable series. We started in June. We're going to go through October. This month, we're focusing on BIPOC communities. Last month we had a great panel on disability. It was Disability Pride Month, so we had a great panel. And then in September, we're doing a women's panel, as well as October to wrap up, we're doing an education panel. We have all kinds of great guests coming in and speaking. And then the final thing is on August 27th at 6:30 p.m. I'm going to be hosting the Brace for Success free workshop. And you can come in, join us, and ask me any question that you would like to get you to that next level in your career. So we always have something going on at Work Solutions to try to because remember, we're committed to social impact. So we're either hosting an event for impact, or we're supporting the professionals who work in impact. Then we support the change makers. Thank you so much.
Ooh, wonderful ways to continue to engage with Dr. Taylor. Those are amazing goodies. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you all for coming to Communicate to Lead Virtual Leadership Conference. I hope that you have gained something from this conversation. We appreciate you being here, and have a great one. Bye.
Thank you.